Today we'll be setting up a Unity project with Git. Generally, there are two ways to start a Git repo, locally or on a remote. Today, we'll be setting it up on the remote first, and then cloning it down to our local computer. So we'll start by giving the repository a name, giving it a description, and leaving it public. All I want to do right now is add a README file, as I'll be using a gitignore template I prefer, although you could use GitHub's default Unity. And I won't choose a license as there's no real need. Although you could. There's no harm. Creating, and there we go. So the first step will be cloning it down to our local computer. I'll just choose that. Clone with URL. Full path, Unity, Kinga, Unity. This is just using my default location. Works with me. And open now. All right, so we have our initial repo. From here, I want to make my first commit, adding a gitignore. So I'll copy and paste, and you can see that the change has already been noticed. So I'll go in here. I'll make sure to stage the file so that Git can track it and push it to the main remote. I'll give it a brief description, added git ignore, and there we go. So right now, the change exists on our local computer, but doesn't exist on our remote. You can see that from here. And if we refresh the page, we don't have our gitignore yet. So all we have to do is hit push. And here we go. There it is. You can see it stores the time when it does this change, as when we refreshed it, instead of saying it was done just now, it knows it was done 27 seconds ago. I find that kind of interesting. Another interesting thing is that most of the changes in Git are actually stored in a small hidden directory. So if we go down here in Firefox, you can see that it has a human readable format for these changes that we've made. It tracks where we got it from, the commit message, and the local Git user info. Okay, so next I want to add a Unity project. So I'll go here, choose a location. All right, select this folder. This will be the root of our project. I'll choose a name. And we'll have to wait for it to build. So we've generated our Unity project. So the first thing I want to do, and you should do this if you're not sure what your default preferences are. 1 second. There we go. So you want to make sure that your version control mode is always set to visible metafiles. This is just so that the scene metafiles are definitely added to your Git project. And in editor, you want to make sure that your asset serialization is in force text. This just makes it so that some of the scene-specific metafiles, make sure to, instead of making it kind of garbled binary text, it keeps it as human readable text, so you can kind of tell what happened in the commit a little easier. All right, that's all we have to do. So we'll just add this as another simple commit. Created Unity project. Generated works too, but I want to keep it even simpler. Oh yes, I forgot to stage. There we go. We want to make sure this commit applies to all these stage files. You can separate each one and add a commit message for each specific file. But since we only generated this with the default Unity Hub action, I think it's fitting to do this commit like this. Also, in these kind of cases where we've made one small change, adding a description isn't all that necessary. In fact, a descriptive message right here is often more helpful than a overly verbose description. And often, if the change is small enough, the reviewer can tell what happened just by looking at the files themselves. So we'll commit these changes, push them. And there we go. The next step will be setting up a development branch, and we'll take care of that in a future video. Thanks for watching.